Hyrule's past holds many dark secrets, some more devastating than others. Throughout the centuries, the royal family have kept certain things under wraps. Although, one secret that has been swept under the rug for far too long now has finally come to rear its ugly head in Breath of the Wild 2. That being Ganondorf's decrepit body sealed beneath Hyrule Castle. Who in their right mind thought it would be a good idea to put him below one of the most important places in all the land? I mean, did the sages really come to the king and say, "Well sir, we tried to shove him in the Sacred Realm, that didn't work out on either occasion. Oh, and in an alternate timeline, we put him in the Twilight Realm, which came back to bite us in the butt. I've got it, we'll stick him below the castle." Regardless of how bad of an idea this is, it's one of the things that interests me the most about the trailers shown thus far. How does he end up underneath the castle? Who snitched him out to Link and Zelda? And why would he come up now after all of these years? Today, accompanied by Kat Bergerson, we will be traveling into the depths of Hyrule Castle to explore the possible answers to these questions. Before we get into our journey, remember to hit the like button, share the video around, and maybe think about subscribing to stay up to date on my latest posts.
The man named Ganondorf has forever embedded his name into the pages of Hyrule's history. His attempts at taking over the kingdom left a bitter taste in the mouths of everyone in Hyrule, including his own people, only worsening after his corruption into malice began. Though it is still too early to tell if this is in fact the Ganondorf of old, the legacy and omen behind the name remains. Even Gerudo Chief Urbosa comments on this legacy. He is the pure embodiment of evil and the source of malice that has haunted Breath of the Wild's Hyrule for thousands of years.
Once a man, sealed away below the castle, slowly twisted into a malignant ball of pink goo. So how did the King of Evil end up stowed away under the castle, only allowed a hall pass every 10,000 years or so? Judging by his previous attempts to take over the kingdom, I'd say it's rather likely Ganondorf did what Ganondorf does best, launched a diabolical plot to take control over Hyrule and the Triforce. Given the state Ganondorf is shown in the trailer for Breath of the Wild 2, it's obvious his plans were thwarted, leaving him immobilized similar to the ancient monks. This would coincide with the cave paintings depicting Ganondorf charging into battle. Maybe this was an ancient fight between the Hylians and Ganondorf's followers, which led to him being shackled underneath the castle by our green friend.
Or maybe this was all a part of Ganondorf's plan to prolong his attack on Hyrule, allowing him to live long enough to see his plan to the end, slowly eating away at Hyrule's foundation until the fall of the kingdom prior to Breath of the Wild. The former, we feel, is the most likely scenario, as the short flash of this scene in the first trailer comes off as if this was not voluntary, but rather a product of someone trying to stop him. Getting his hands on the one thing he's always sought after would also be a decent reason for him being sealed beneath the castle. In past titles, the Triforce has always been somewhere close to home. The goddess statue in Skyward Sword, Temple of Time in Ocarina, and embedded in the bodies of our main characters at one point or another. In the end, going after the Triforce in his search of power would ultimately lead him to the front doorstep of the royal family.
The last take on this we'd like to mention is that maybe this version of Ganondorf was but a simple man of the desert born into the Gerudo tribe. With the knowledge of what would become of him if left unrestrained, the kingdom put a bounty on Ganondorf's head. To fight back, he gathered forces but succumbed to the Knights of Hyrule, leading to him being taken prisoner. Who are we kidding? There's no way Nintendo is taking the good guy Ganondorf route with this. Forget we even mentioned it. For now, let's stick with the tried and true method that Ganondorf normally follows. His lust for power led him to the castle, where he was overcome by someone in control of our supernatural hand, and at one point faded into history. Either way, it's a story I'm looking forward to getting more details on when the game releases. With that pinned down, let's check out who might have snitched Ganondorf out, giving away his hiding place to Link and Zelda.
Thanks to the first trailer, we can posit that the duo traveled into the underbelly of the castle to discover something. Otherwise, why would they go down there in the first place, let alone prepare for such a long, treacherous journey like they did? Just as the king was warned by the fortune teller that Calamity Ganon's resurrection was nigh, someone must have told Link and Zelda where to find the Gerudo King. So, who might this have been? Let's go over some of our candidates.
Our first choice would be the Great Deku Tree, a being said to have watched over Hyrule since time immemorial. This wise tree has protected the resting place of the Master Sword for countless ages and has witnessed a lot over the years. If anyone had knowledge of the royal family's dark secret, it would be the Great Deku Tree. Being one of the oldest creatures to exist in the confines of Hyrule, it's possible that he lived during the time of Ganondorf thousands of years ago. Although the downside to this is that he didn't mention anything about it in the first title, and he's a tree that can't move, meaning he's only privy to what others tell him about the outside world. You could argue the Koroks feed him gossip from across the land, so I guess it's still possible due to his little spies.
Moving on, we have Ganondorf. Yeah, he may have given himself away. Remember, Zelda was sealed in a cocoon with the guy for 100 years. If she didn't learn more about him being in such close quarters with the dude for that long, I don't know what they were doing the whole time. On the other hand, maybe it's the seal that started to give way, allowing malice to leak out, leaving behind breadcrumbs for Link and Zelda to follow back to the source. Though I think the pair are smart enough to not follow a bunch of malice down a creepy dark hole in the ground, so this one seems a little bit less plausible, especially when you consider the fact that Ganondorf is the source of Calamity Ganon. So why wouldn't they have been able to find his body 100 years ago, let alone 10,000 years ago? Who knows, maybe the Zelda team will surprise us by taking this approach, since I can bet most of this wasn't actually planned ahead of Breath of the Wild's development.
Coming in as the final snitch, we have the hand that sealed Ganon. Out of the picks mentioned, introducing a brand new device or character to bring forth this information would be a decent route for the Zelda team to take. It leaves out any plot holes created by previous characters knowing about Ganondorf's body, and it allows the team more creative control. Whether the hand is a sage or a previous hero doesn't matter so much as it has ties to Ganondorf and is the literal thing holding back his power. Just like Fi, the hand may have a ghostly appearance in its true form. Starting Breath of the Wild 2 off by calling out to both Link and Zelda, drawing them closer to the source of the calamity to put an end to the cycle. Or maybe we're looking too far into things and everyone knew about Ganondorf being below the castle the entire time, and it was simply never mentioned in the original game. Wouldn't that be shocking to find out?
And that leads us to the end of the video and our final question. Why now? And the answer? To bring closure to the story, of course. Not counting remakes and spin-offs, it's been 15 long years since Ganondorf has made an appearance in the Zelda series. It's due time this man returns with a vengeance.
We've learned what caused the never-ending cycle at the beginning of the timeline with Skyward Sword, watched as Ganondorf seized control of Hyrule for the first time in Ocarina, witnessed nearly everything destroyed prior to Breath of the Wild, and now, it's time to see the end of the King of Evil and the rebirth of the Kingdom of Hyrule. It's only natural that Link and Zelda of this era, with everything they have gone through, would want to put a stop to at least the cycle of Calamity Ganon. He destroyed their entire lives, leaving both of them with nothing left to lose but hope. Hope that one day Hyrule can be better than it once was. And it's that hope that leads them to this final showdown in Breath of the Wild 2. So what are your thoughts? Why did Ganondorf end up below the castle? Who's going to be the character that exposes the dwarf? And why now, after all of these years? Let us know in the comments. Thank you for watching the first of many Breath of the Wild 2 videos releasing this year. Make sure to leave a like, and if you haven't already, subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay up to date on my latest posts. Cap, it was great having you co-host today's video. Let everyone know where they can find you.
And thank you RMFH for having me on today's video. It was an absolute pleasure to be here. You can go find my channel at Capt Bergerson, where I also make Zelda videos, particularly deep dives into Zelda dungeons. In fact, RMFH appears in one of my latest videos where we examine the Arbiter's Grounds from Twilight Princess. So if that sounds interesting to you, go check that out. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching and have a great day. Bye-bye.